In 2026, many Pokemon fan game developers are dead set on creating experiences that aren't very popular within the IP, story formulas without gym leaders, open zone exploration styles, and giving up to hundreds of existing Pokemon a brand new visual and gameplay identities. But not everyone is craving that uniqueness 100% of the time, and sometimes you might just be in the mood for that classic, authentic adventure you fell in love with as a kid. So, let me introduce you to Pokemon Solar Eclipse, a newly completed Pokemon fan game that was publicly released just the day before this video went live. Your adventure begins in the small town of Gardenia, where the local professor offers both you and a friend 5 Pokemon to choose from. From there, you'll travel across the region, seeking to collect 8 gym badges, all while keeping your eye on the mysterious Team Soul. On paper, it sounds exactly like what you'd expect from any other 8 gym fan game, but Solar Eclipse does a few distinct things that you wouldn't pick up on by just reading its forum thread. The first is its incredible balance between quantity and quality. The region of Solaria comprises 14 towns, 19 routes, and nearly a dozen dungeons in between them, not to mention a battle frontier as well. Yet each one of those locations has some reason to exist. Whether it be a main story event, a gym leader, or even just a couple of side quests, you won't ever run through a map just to forget about it minutes later. This paired quite well with how unique the project's audio choices were. Music is one of the most important contributors to a game's environment, and alongside all the added sound effects, Solar Eclipse is definitely one you want to play with sound on. And of course, the story. I'd be lying if I said the plot strayed far from what you'd expect in a mainline title, yet there's still very much a lack of bland writing or predictable moments. If there's one place this game truly breaks free from the standard formula though, it'd be with its gameplay. The region of Solaria houses 426 Pokemon, many of whom have received changes to their move pools, stats, and even ability options. This makes the limited decks a lot more excited to work with, as you aren't bound to choosing the typically strong Pokemon over the typically weak ones. And if you're someone who desires the details of those changes, not only is there an unlockable advanced Pokedex, but also online documentation. To wrap things up, Solar Eclipse includes heavy customization options at the beginning of the game, letting you choose how strong your opponents are, whether EV games exist in the game, an optional level cap, and much more. So yeah, if everything I described isn't enough to convince you, then I'm honestly not sure what will. Do you remember Pokemon Quartz? It was a ROM hack released all the way back in 2006. Quite literally 20 years ago at this point. And as you could obviously guess, it doesn't have much worth playing for other than maybe nostalgia compared to everything released since. To likely everyone's surprise, the hack has actually received an unofficial remake, aiming to polish and modernize the experience while retaining the project's charm. The focal point of Quartz were the Fakamon, which ironically is easily its biggest foresight, because I won't lie, they don't look very good. I'm sure that wasn't a big deal 20 years ago, especially considering the total count matched the first 3 generations of official Pokemon, yet I can't say they've aged well to any degree. Luckily, Quartz Minus provides updated sprites to every single one of them. Most of them still look a bit whack, but you can really only blame the original designs for that, and I still think the artists did the best they could with what they had to work with. Most trainer sprites have also received the same treatment, which is pretty nice considering how many original human character designs the game had. But alongside sprite updates, every single one of the 386 Fakamon have also been given rebalances to their stats and move pools. I couldn't find any documentation detailing the changes, yet using about 60 to 70% of them, there weren't any cases where I found one to be lacking in learnable attacks. It's also worth mentioning that every Fakamon is actually catchable now, which I guess was an issue with the original. I wouldn't know. I was unfortunately only 4 years old when the hack released, and didn't exactly have any desire to give it a try in the 20 years since. Other than that, it still uses the base mechanics from its base game Pokemon Ruby, so no fairy type, no physical special split, or any other convenient systems you might have gotten too familiar with. Although interestingly enough, this hack makes almost 0 updates to the region and story. A story that probably averages 2 grammar issues per sentence. And while many might disagree with that decision, I actually think there are two very good reasons why it's better that way. Keeping all the mistakes and weird dialogue allows players to enjoy the charm of this janky 2006 hack without a plate full of bad game design choices. I also think that trying to fix all the story's problems would leave you with something entirely different, because as bad as they are, they really do hold the game together. As for the region, there's nothing particularly wrong with it in my opinion. It's basically just Hoenn with different map layouts, which was pretty common among early ROM hacks. I'm going to be honest, even though I enjoyed my time with it, this is a hack I really only suggest to two kinds of people: those who have nostalgia for the original, and Fakemon enjoyers who don't mind the lack of modern mechanics. Because outside of that, I really don't think it's going to blow your mind compared to many of the hacks we have today. A little over a year ago was the release of Super Mario Mon, an incredibly polished crossover hack, actually easily the most polished crossover hack, combining the characters and setting of the Mario universe with the gameplay of Pokemon. And while the hack is already in a state that can be played from start to finish, the developers actually went back to give it an anniversary update, providing 21 pages worth of changes. Although it's been a full year since I last showcased it in depth. If you for some reason haven't played Mario Mon, the hack plays quite similarly to that of a normal Pokemon game. You start your adventure picking a starter, and then travel through 8 worlds collecting 8 power stars, aka gym badges. Except obviously the Pokemon are replaced by 151 monsters from the Mario IP. As far as I know, there are no canon Pokemon in this game. Despite that, the developers did a really good job separating any ounce of Pokemon's visual identity from the game. Yeah, the art style is similar, but it's still going to feel completely different compared to a hack that, let's say, just takes a bunch of Mario characters and throws them into an existing region. Every map, battle, and even character interaction is as close as you're going to get to what would probably be an authentic Mario plus monster taming RPG whatever experience you'd find in a fan project. Though I'm sure you're wondering, can I enjoy this hack if my knowledge of the series is on the lower side? And as someone who hasn't played a Mario game in almost 10 years and didn't recognize half the monsters in the hack, I'd say absolutely. You can just treat them like they're Fakemon. On to the actual update, it's a pretty big one. First, you can now enable a randomizer at the start of the game, with some individual settings if you only want some things to be random. But in my opinion, the most important addition is the built-in battle speedup, my absolute favorite feature in modern ROM hacking, allowing you to enjoy the battle music without having to sit through Generation 3's very slow combat speed. Outside of that, you have 21 more pages of updates to existing game features and a spreadsheet detailing balance changes to over 100 captures. So yeah, if you haven't played the game before, I'd highly recommend it. Or if you've been looking to give it a replay through, now is the perfect time to do so. Before I continue, let's go through some honorable mentions real quick. These are projects that offer less and available content at the moment, yet I still believe they deserve a quick showcase. First up is Emerald Azure, claiming to be a fresh take on the Hoenn experience, which is pretty believable from both the title screen and introduction. You actually don't even begin in one of Hoenn's canon locations, instead on an island where you'll need to complete a short quest before arriving in Littleroot Town. Outside of the obviously different visuals, the bulk of Emerald Azure's new content will come from a plethora of new gyms. I can't provide an exact number, though considering the 6 in the live version only takes you to Slateport, I'm going to assume the total is somewhere around double of that in the base game. The hack also includes ways to immediately customize your Pokemon, which will certainly come in handy since the battle AI thinks a lot smarter than many ROM hacks I've played. Like I said before, the current version of the project only has about 6 gyms going up to Slateport City, but I was made aware that a new version of the game containing 3 more gyms alongside a completely refurbished tutorial is right around the corner. So if you're looking to jump into it, I highly suggest holding out for that. The next one is Celia's Stupid ROM Hack, which is a completely normal adventure through Kanto, where you'll be joined by the classic partner of your choice: Charmander, Charmander, or Charmander. Yeah, this is much more of a silly puzzle game than a normal Pokemon adventure, where at every point in the game, you'll encounter some new or quirky mechanic to keep you on your feet. And I mean literally any point, whether it be when you encounter a new Pokemon, on your way to the next town, or even just during a tutorial, there's always something fun to surprise you. The main reason I decided to give this hack a shorter segment was because I think it's one that's best enjoyed going in with as little information as possible. Being a puzzle game, there's only so much I can show without ruining the fun. So, despite its generic fire red and leaf green look, it's still very much a polished and fun hack that I highly recommend to anyone looking to test their thinking skills in a very comedic way. Finally, we have Shadows of Time, an NDS hack set in a brand new region with an original story. The plot is centered around Sinfei, the fourth member of Sinnoh's Lake Guardian trio. During your journey to collect gym badges, you'll not only encounter it, but also investigate a secretive cult devoted to Sinfei. The hack is very clearly in early development with only 2 gyms, yet I still found it to be a worthwhile one to give attention to. Obviously, a Gen 4 hack with a new region and story is automatically impressive, though alongside newer generation Pokemon and overworld encounters, it's certainly one I have high hopes for. Last but not least is AR Synchronia. Not even 5 minutes in, I could tell this game was going to have a much different vibe from most others I've played. Your story doesn't begin in a small town with just a couple of houses, followed by a handful of short routes. It opens from the perspective of a resident to the city of Asteria. That's probably the 3rd largest city I've ever seen in a Pokemon fan game. Which leads me into my first talking point about how well this game handles its almost incomprehensible scale. And I say incomprehensible because every time I thought I was about to reach the border of this first city, it just kept going. Despite its insane size, however, there was still a lot of detail. Side quests, hidden gift Pokemon, flavorful NPC dialogue to contribute to world building. I wasn't just walking around big maps with nothing to do, which isn't something I encounter super often, though I know it's a very easy mistake to make. But I'm getting ahead of myself, as something I should have mentioned at the beginning of this segment is that this is a very story-heavy game. From the get-go, there are a lot of cutscenes detailing interactions between yourself and others. Even though you're granted freedom to explore quite quickly, this is still not a game I recommend if you plan on skipping most of the dialogue, which leads into some actual criticism I have as someone who did read the story, and that's a lack of a sort of quest log or similar system to tell me where to go next. This wasn't something that became a real issue until I had gone 2 days without playing the game. The directions are easy to follow if you read them, yet I still think it's worthy of mentioning. Besides that, I thought the story was great. It kicks off with a group of friends trying to deal with a big crime organization before diving into more supernatural topics. Now, unlike the story and world design, you won't find many unique elements within the gameplay. The only noticeable difference is a primary focus on double battles, and while I know many people don't like doubles as the main format, I do think this is probably the easiest fan project using it because of how many Pokemon have spread moves alongside immediate access to Helping Hand. So yeah, no super unique gameplay mechanics, but between generations 1 through 8 Pokemon and almost every modern QOL feature, the combat was still fun. In its current state, the game has about 20 hours of content, so I highly suggest giving it a try if you're someone who plays for the story and isn't afraid of unfinished games. But that's just about going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed, and be sure to subscribe for more Pokemon fan games and ROM hacks. Thank you to my channel members for their continuous support, and have a nice rest of your day.